Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Among the Ferns here at Fernhill Garden Centre in association with Shannonside Northern Sound. Hope we find you well. I hope you had a good week's worth of gardening. Let's welcome our host, Mr. Eoin Reid. Hello, Eoin.
Great to be here.
It's great to be here. We got your 2 flower pot men here back with you once again. So last week we had a great show, and this week we're going to be talking about
the queen of the garden, which is roses.
Yeah.
So can't wait to get dug in.
Here we are then, among the queens, Eoin.
Among the queens, yeah. Yeah, we're in amongst the roses. I mean, roses are an amazing plant, and a lot of people are afraid of roses.
Why is that?
They just think they're too much work, and there is a bit of work to them, but they do reward you if you put a bit of work into them. But there are varieties that don't need an awful lot of attention, and that's what we're going to start off with. We're going to start off with what we call easy roses, or flower carpet roses. And flower carpet roses are these babies here. And what they are is these are ground cover roses that have been developed over the last 10 to 15 years. They are originally sold as being disease free. Now they're not completely disease free, it depends on the site and position, but generally speaking you don't have to give them much attention. You treat them as you would basically a shrub in the garden. You plant them in good ground in a sunny position and they will spread and flower for the entire summer. Absolutely amazing plants. So these, if you're afraid of roses, I'm not sure where to go with roses, and you couldn't be bothered putting the work into them, these are the ones for you.
Why do these make it easier? Why
just a variety and the genetics. They've bred them over the years. Roses have been growing for the last hundreds of years, and they're constantly improving and improving and improving. And these particular variety of roses are a variety of roses that work really well here in Ireland, probably due to our climate, and they have been developed. Started off, first of all, the first one that came out was this beautiful pink one. This was the original flower carpet rose that came out. Fantastic pink. Now, in fairness, it's probably still my favourite. But then they introduced the white, the yellow, the red. So there's a great selection of these available. And they are just amazing plants to plant in your garden. We use these quite a lot in amongst shrub beds, believe it or not, to give that extra bang of colour. You know, a shrub bed, with a shrubbery, you were trying to, we'll do this later on in the show, in a shrubbery you're trying to get colour into the shrubbery for all different times of the season throughout the year. And by putting in a pocket of these flower carpet roses into a shrubbery, they will just give you endless flowering from about the beginning of June up until nearly November. The trick with them is, with all roses, you need to deadhead them. They'll come in flushes. So when the flush finishes, cut off the dead heads, and that'll allow the second flush, or possibly even the third flush to come. So very, very important.
How far back can you cut it?
Just below the flower head.
Right.
Just below the flower head. And just out with a good sharp secateurs and off you go. So that's your flower carpet roses. One of the best roses for your garden. Now we'll introduce other roses. So that's our flower carpet rose.
Yep.
Brilliant. But they also introduce flower carpet rose onto a stem, or quarter standard or half standard it's called. And these are just amazing as well to stand out in your garden. So if you have got a bed of roses, sometimes a bed of roses can be quite flat, so it's nice to have a little bit of height. So introducing a few of these standard roses in amongst them works really, really well. And the fact that these are flower carpet roses on a stem, again, less disease problems.
And again, easy to look after?
Absolutely, very easy to look after. Now you get lots of other varieties available in standard roses as well. Nostalgia, a lot of the hybrid teas and floribundas are put on stems also, but this particular one here is the flower carpet. Now, on to other roses. So the real roses that most people would be familiar with is what we call floribunda and hybrid teas. What's the difference in a floribunda and a hybrid tea?
You took the words out of my mouth.
There you go. I'm about to tell you. A floribunda is a rose that has lots of flowers. Kind of on one rose you could have 30 or 40 flowers.
Wow.
Whereas a hybrid tea would only have maybe 5 or 6 flowers, but the roses are especially super. So they are. So you get really high quality roses. All of the hybrid teas and floribundas generally stay in around 2 to 3 foot. You will get the exception, the likes of Queen Elizabeth, which will go up to about 5 foot. She's quite a strong rose, Queen Elizabeth. You've got to be careful you put her. But other than that, most of them are what we call bedding roses. So they're in around 2 foot. Now when you're planting floribunda and hybrid teas, several ways of doing it. Number one, you've got to have really good soil, exceptional soil. So you've got to put plenty of farmer manure into the ground. You've got to make sure it's a good sunny site, well drained. And then you plant your roses approximately 2 foot apart. You have to have a bed of roses, so you're planting your roses quite close together. You may stick with one colour, a lot of people do, or you may mix it up with a variety, because again, traditionally people will go for one colour, a bed of red roses, a bed of yellow roses, a bed of pink roses. But I've noticed in recent times, people are just playing with them and putting in whatever they want. And that's
Being
fine.
more creative and more
Absolutely,
imaginative
yeah,
to
yeah,
suit their own personal
100%.
taste. So what makes it more difficult to grow these particular roses, or indeed look after them? Is it just the groundwork
It's the
that you need to
spraying.
do?
It's the spraying.
Ah, right.
It's the spraying. Like you see, these are perfectly clean.
Yeah.
Because we're spraying here every week. We spray here with fungicide and insecticide every single week. And
So
you
the
can see-
carpet roses won't be as prone to, say, green fly and black spot and all that kind of
Yeah,
thing?
absolutely. Not they might get green fly, but black spot and mildew and rust is the enemy of roses.
Yeah.
Whereas the carpet roses don't get as much of it, these will get it. You can be guaranteed they're going to get it. This is kind of really blighty weather we have at the moment, so they're always going to get it. So you have to spray them every 2 to 3 weeks, and ideally mix up your sprays. 1 week use multi-rose, next week use rose clear. Mix up your sprays, because if you keep using the same one the whole time, you will get a resistance to the spray and it won't be as effective. So a little trick, mix up your sprays, very, very important.
Look at this one. How beautiful is this? The beautiful white rose.
Just
Owen.
amazing. That's burgundy ice, which is just gorgeous. It is.
Absolutely stunning.
And that's iceberg, which is an amazing, beautiful little rose. So there is fantastic varieties of roses. And look at this one here, Leonardo da Vinci, absolutely stunning as well.
He's
So-
aged well, hasn't he?
Yeah, Leonardo's, in fairness, he's been around a while, but he does a great job. So these are, some roses have great perfume, some haven't. So you've got to select your roses that have got better perfume. There's specific varieties there, new varieties that come out recently called Perfuma. So these are specific ones that have absolutely
nice aroma.
amazing fragrance. Yeah. So these have amazing fragrance in there. So there's so many varieties of roses out there. There's a rose for everywhere in your garden. Can't forget to mention the climbing roses.
Oh, yes, of
Rambling
course.
roses.
Yeah.
They are just brilliant for filling up a wall. Again, they need good bright area. What's the difference between a climbing rose and a rambling rose? A climbing rose has got stiff branches, kind of lies against a wall. Rambling rose is, as the name would suggest, it rambles. It's great for going over shades and hedges and that kind of stuff. So there's a place for roses everywhere in your garden. The last roses we're going to mention is our David Austin, or shrub roses. And probably one of the best ones of all is this one here, Gertrude Jerkel. Now, Gertrude was a fantastic designer back in the 18th century. She was a famous designer, would have done a lot of big gardens in the UK and in Ireland, and she's got her rose named after herself. So these shrub roses, or David Austin roses, are quite big. They get up to about 4 to 5 foot, massive, big shrubs. Now again, they're ideal for planting in amongst your shrub beds, like our flower carpet roses. So if you've got a nice shrub bed and a couple of these David Austin roses, kind of sprinkle through it, absolutely stunning colour.
But how long will it take for the rose to reach its full potential of 5
Not
foot?
that long. I mean, look at this one here. Look at that growth.
Gee, but that's already about
That's this year's growth.
3 foot, isn't it?
That's this year's growth.
Jeez.
So roses, this is why roses require really good soil. They are demanding of excellent soil. Reason being, they put such effort into the growth during the season that if you don't have good soil, they will struggle. They will struggle hugely. So they need to have really, really rich soil. So the compost in here, we liquid feed here as well, we're spraying here. So we mind these things. So if you look after your roses, give them good growing conditions, you will get that. So a shrub rose, after 2 or 3 seasons, is going to fill up this pathway here.
Yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing plants.
And what kind of product will we need to put on it, on a regular basis on the soil? Would it be like fish bone, blood, all that kind of thing, and
That's
manure?
a very good question. I'm going to get those products for you right now.
Good man.
We're down to our final type of rose. These are what we call patio roses, and they're ideal for little containers. Last week we were flowering up the containers in around the patio.
We were.
So these are rose bushes that are perfect for your patios. These are little patio roses. You asked a question there a few moments ago, Paul. What do you need to use to keep the roses in good condition?
Yes.
So there's several products that you require. One is food, and the second then is fungicide and insecticide. Probably the best food that I find is this one here. It's an Irish product called Fast Grow. What that is chicken pellets infused with seaweed. Now, it's just a super fertilizer for a hungry plant like roses. It has all the minor nutrients and all the major nutrients, which will give the roses a great feed. So you just literally grab a handful of that, sprinkle it around the ground where your roses are, probably 2 or 3 times a year, once in the spring, once in summer, once in the autumn, and that will keep the roses well fed.
Can you overfeed?
You can't really overfeed that because it's a slow breakdown. It's not like this. You can overfeed with this one, This is an artificial fertiliser called rose food, and this you can overfeed it. Absolutely.
Would you use these in
You can use it
tandem
in
with each
conjunction.
other?
You can, yeah, but just don't overdo this one. Putting this on once a year is sufficient. A small little handful in around each rose. The trick with any feeding, never mind roses, is little and often. If you can just remember, you get nothing else out of this podcast, feeding little and often. If you overdo food, you can kill a plant.
Yeah.
Because the salt concentration in the soil will rise up so high that it'll actually make the plant wilt. The osmosis in the plant, the water in the plant will come over. So you can actually kill plants with over-fertilization. So very important not to over-fertilize. Small amounts regularly is very important. The other big things that you need to have then, as we mentioned earlier on, is rose clear, multi-rose, and a good fungicide. They are absolute necessity for your roses. And you just have to get in the habit of doing it. Have them in your shed. Go out and do them on a dry day, ideally in the evening time, and then you'll have your roses in great shape.
Yeah,
and
hard work, but the rewards are tremendous.
It's not hard work, it's a habit. It's a habit. And the last thing you need is a good secateurs.
Of course.
Because when you come to your roses, okay, I know these are all an absolute flower at the moment, and it's probably a shame for me to cut it, but when you're pruning your roses, that's what you do. Good sharp secateurs, just above a bud, and you will have your next bunch of roses. See the next batch coming on there? Tomorrow, that'll be in flower.
Wow.
So don't be afraid. If your roses are starting to go over a little bit, going out into your rose garden, constantly taking off the flowers that are just going over, that allows new ones to keep coming.
Yeah. Pop them in the vase in a house.
Pop them in the vase, bring them in the house.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. So that's all we have on roses.
We're among the ferns here at Fernhill Garden Centre for our podcast, and it's time to take some questions. Owen.
Brilliant.
Obviously, we're talking about roses this week, so the questions are predominantly about roses. Can I grow roses in containers on a balcony or small gardens, says this listener?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, your patio roses are fantastic in containers. Any rose, even the David Austin is fantastic in containers, but with a big rose like a David Austin, it has to be a big container. So small roses, small container, big roses, big container.
Now, you did a little example of pruning before, so I suppose the burning question would be, what's the best time to prune my roses without damaging them, says this texter?
Well, you can prune roses. You nearly need to be pruning roses all year round. So you're deadheading them throughout the season, and then coming into the autumn, you will cut your roses back by about, say this rose here, back by about halfway. And the reason you do that is stop them rocking around in the wind. Yeah. Because we get a lot of storms here in Ireland, so you kind of cut them back by about halfway. That stops them rocking around the wind and getting damaged. And then in March, just around Paddy's weekend, you go right down to the ground with them, right down to the ground. Cut back.
Here's a curious one. Are there any Irish-grown or more sustainable rose varieties available?
All these roses here are Irish-grown. We have about 5 or 6 producers in Ireland doing roses, so they're all Irish-grown.
Lovely. Question here, nothing to do with roses. I have a tree, lovely pink blossoms, and the leaves are beige pink. If you don't keep an eye on it, the leaves go green. That means it's going wild. How do I curtail it, says this texter?
That's what they call a sucker. A sucker is coming up from the a lot of trees are budded or grafted at the bottom. And what happens is the ornamental variety is growing away happily, but the wild part, certain trees can be more problematic than others. Prunuses, some of the maples, some of the dogwoods, they could be problematic with suckers. So you have to be stopping those suckers from establishing themselves, or they will take over. And the trick with the sucker, believe it or not, is not to prune it, but to rip it out. If you rip it out, you're taking it out like an old tooth out of your head. It's hard work, so don't let them get too established. Otherwise, if you prune it, you're making it stronger.
Right. Another question then, just before we wrap up this week's edition. Could you ask Eoin? I planted begonia bulbs in individual pots in spring, but only a few have grown. What went wrong, says Margaret?
Give them time. Have patience. They will come. Begonia bulbs are notoriously slow. Unless you had them in a greenhouse where they're going to come on in the heat, it takes a long time for begonia bulbs to come up. But they'll be fine. They'll get there. Just give them time.
As the man says, plant them and they will come. So, Eoin, we've been talking about the Queen of the Garden today. What's our next subject for next week's podcast?
We're going to be colouring the garden with perennial flowers. And we'll be showing you all the varieties that work really, really well, and there's an abundance of them. This is an amazing time for perennial flowers. And these are the flowers that you plant once, they come back year in, year out, and just reward you with amazing flowers.
Wonderful. We've been among the ferns here at Fernhill Garden Centre in Athlone in association with Shannonside Northern Sound. Make sure you check out our Shannonside Northern Sound YouTube channels, Spotify, and also our Apple podcasts as well. Until next time, have a good time.
Bye-bye.